All right, everybody, we're coming to order. Sarah, you ready to go?
All set.
All right, so Douglas Finance Committee, June 3, 2025. Let's just go around the table and identify ourselves for the record. Ryan, why don't you start?
Brian Hogan.
Carol Gogolinsky.
Lynn Mazzulli.
Dick Vandenberg.
Sandy Kuipers.
Heather Moran.
And Howard is supposed to come, so we'll see. Mike let me know that he couldn't make it. And otherwise, and Rob is out of town, so he let me know too. So our first agenda item is inter-departmental transfers. So who wants to go through those? Jean, do you want to, or Matt, do you want to just give us the narrative?
I'll let Matt give you the narrative. First of all, I would like to thank you for coming in on a short notice for these. It was, when it rained at Ford, they kept coming through, so thank you for a meeting tonight.
So is this
So there's one intra, right, Jean?
Yeah. Yeah, we have, this is for the Zoom contract.
And then the reserve fund, there are 4 of them, right?
Correct.
So let's do the inter first
I
then.
sit here with my thin voice. Not my thin voice. So there'll be 2 pieces of paper. This is the only one that's an interdepartmental transfer. We switched over to voice over internet protocol a few years ago with the benefit of ARPA funds, and bought new phones and changed the way we send phone calls from traditional analog to digital signals over the internet. We discovered over the course of the last year that this provider, Granite, was unable to provide us with statutorily required 911 location data. So when we would call into 911 dispatch, it was not showing the location of the call. That's against the law, and it's also a breach of our contract. I sent them notice of breach, and they failed to cure. So the only thing we could do is switch again. And so we decided to take a great big jump into modernity and move our provider to Zoom. So a lot of corporate structures and government entities are using Zoom phones. They were able to use our existing phones that we had bought for the Granite switchover, so there was no expense there. And the cost of service was roughly the same, so we won't have a budgetary obstacle. But the install is a little bit more complicated than an IT consultant can do on his own. There's some technical aspects of porting the numbers over and configuring the licenses. What's really different now is that we will be on the same license with the school department and managing the overall account, whereas the schools will still have complete control over their own phones. So the transfer is for $23,500, and that's largely for technical support from Zoom. And it's coming out of public building maintenance salaries, which was still slightly overfunded because we never filled the facilities director position, so there's still that potential sitting there.
So Matt, is part of the story here that first company that you contacted, they weren't quite up to the
So there was a vendor
challenge, so to speak? Is that a fair summary or
that
not?
caused a delay. So Zoom sells their services through different subcontractors that have statewide contracts.
Okay.
In this case, the name of the contract was E+. And we had entered into a relationship with them where they would do the install or guide us through the installation of the Zoom phones. And after about 3 meetings, we realized they just didn't know what they were doing. They were still asking us basic questions about our system and couldn't really get a focused meeting to occur. So at that point, we really felt, all of us, Dom from the schools and David from RIT and me and a couple others, that we were asking for a disaster working with them, so we canceled them. But they wasted a lot of time in which a lot of the Zoom services would have been free. So unfortunately, we're we're where we are.
Was there any kind of cancellation fee or?
If there is, we're not gonna pay it.
Yeah.
They've been in breach, for, I think it's close to 8 months since I sent them notice.
Wow.
I'm paying to avoid litigation,
Mhm.
and because it's the phone service that we're paying for right now. But as soon as I can stop paying them, I'm gonna stop paying.
And then Matt, this, the public building maintenance salaries, as we look ahead to the budget for next year, is that still gonna be in there about the same amount?
No, I cut that.
Did ya?
To balance the budget, I took the facility manager
Okay.
position out.
That's right, yeah. But for this fiscal year, that works to transfer it from there.
Yeah, well, because the position's vacant, and we're
Yeah.
not planning on filling it next year.
Everybody clear on what's going on here? So the request is to transfer $23,500 from public building maintenance salaries, which is currently not being used, to IT expenses, I think, right? Anybody? So any questions on that for Matt or for Gene? All right, would somebody move then that we approve, that we grant the, what's the word I'm looking for? We approve the request for the intra-departmental transfer for $22,500 from public building maintenance salaries to IT expenses. So moved. Sandy makes the motion. Second by anybody?
Second.
Lynn seconds. Any discussion? So Matt, are you feeling comfortable with the Zoom setup going forward then?
So we've been through a demo. So we've pressure tested everything. So we did some random sampling of, so we set up an account, I ported over a few of the numbers and tested all the EU911 data and everything else. And it worked very, very well. So we're confident that we're making the right choice.
Okay. All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, so the motion is unanimous, 6-0. All right, we'll just hang on to these and sign them at the end. All right, then we have 4 reserve fund transfers. Matt, are you gonna go through these, or Gene? Matt, any particular order, Matt, you wanna go through these?
So why don't we finish with the phones? Because there wasn't enough in the interdepartmental transfer to cover the full phone project. So there's another 8,300
Oh, yeah, okay. So
requested from the
yeah.
reserve fund. It's the same issue.
So it's basically to make sure we have enough money to do all that we need, right?
Right.
Okay. So the request for transfer, everybody, is $8,300 to the IT fund. And then there's a balance of $63,92.49. Any questions on that?
So the total cost then is more like 31,000 to go to the new phone system, adding these two together?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions on that request for transfer from reserve fund?
Maybe I should ask.
Go ahead, Ryan.
This before, but for next year, is there an increase in costs that we're gonna have to deal with the new vendor?
No.
No.
So as I said earlier,
I'm
we,
sorry. I missed that.
when we price this out, so our minutes of use are going to be the same.
Okay.
And it's the same protocol. So
Okay.
it should be paid for the same.
I missed that first time.
Okay, so we need a motion then to approve the request to transfer $8,300 from the reserve fund to the IT fund.
So moved.
Lynn, thank you. Second, Ryan. Any discussion on the motion, anybody? Everybody clear? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, motion carries 6-0. Okay, we'll sign.
No, they had 2, one was.
Okay, Matt,
But when does it
actually we should start signing this now.
They share other budgetary problems, but I can explain
While we're
that one if you want to
Please
do the
do,
other two.
because I'm
Okay.
I support that.
So just sign these at the bottom, everybody.
Sign or initial? Sign.
Sign their names
Got
or
it.
initials, Gene, for the,
Sign.
okay. All right, Matt, what's the next one you'd like to do?
Let's do Adam's request. So public building maintenance. The amount requested is $16,000.
Okay,
We have what is now our second leak in our 9-year-old boiler.
yes.
For those who are familiar with these things, they're cast iron plates with gaskets in the middle and the water flows through. Flame comes down and heats the water as it circulates. The second plate failed in exactly the same location as the first one. If you remember that first one, Adam drove all the way to New Hampshire, grabbed the 400-pound cast iron piece, threw it in the back of his truck, drove it back here. So the second one, I'm happy to report that our water sensor under the boiler caught it, like right away. Adam, living close by, was able to get here before there was much of a puddle. So there was no extra damage done, shut the boiler down immediately. It is offline, it has not been running. We did locate the piece. We are, through Raynode, we are fighting with the manufacturer again to honor the warranty. I hate to say it, but I think the cat's already out of the bag. You know, at this point, the boiler's a lemon.
Sounds like it.
And we're gonna have to be very, very careful managing it going forward. So if that's a bad batch of castings, they're all gonna fail us. So that's.
Who's the company that made the boiler?
Oh, you'd have to ask Item.
Okay,
HB Smith.
HP Smith.
so what does the 16,000 pay for then?
So it pays for the new part and the installation and the reconfiguration, so the boiler, once it's taken all apart, has to be put back together again, past all the testing.
Okay, any questions on that, anybody? So the motion would be to approve the request to transfer $16,000 from the reserve fund to public building maintenance.
So moved.
Sandy makes the motion,
Second.
seconds by Heather. Discussion, anybody on the motion?
How many
Okay.
boilers are there? Just one question, just the one. Okay, how about when you said bad casting, like we had other ones?
There are 12 sections in the boiler,
12 seconds.
so we've now
Okay.
replaced 2
Okay.
Where is it?
in the basement.
Here?
If you ever want to tour the basement, we can all dress up like characters from the
Ghostbusters?
movie Scream and go on down there. You feel like you're in the engine room of the Titanic.
Okay.
Ceilings are very high, the equipment is very big, a lot of really old stuff from when the building.
Do you have to sing Your Heart Will Go On too then? Or not?
What you don't want to do is brush up against any wires dangling. They're just phone wires, there's little 12 volts.
Yeah.
But you'll notice.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, motion carries 6-0. All right, Matthew, what's the next one?
The last one for me anyway is
The 10 or the 2?
10.
Okay.
This, I think, will have a substantial return to it. What's the issue here is the timing. As this committee is well aware, we're leaving the health insurance purchase group, and we have been told by the group's treasurer that as of April 30th, we still had an outstanding surplus of $949,000. And when all is said and done with pharmacy rebates and stop-loss reimbursements, it may be over $1 million.
Really?
And I've made every attempt as I can to whittle that surplus down by not taking rate increases and just hoping that we draw it down on paper, because the group as a business entity is having some difficulty on cash flow. So we are now leaving as of July 1st in the attempt to have them pay out our surplus has been rebuffed by votes of the board that will not give us our money.
Say that again?
They have voted twice not to give us surplus.
Okay.
So
Because,
they don't have any money.
Oh, I
They
see.
can barely pay their bills. So they knew that us leaving the group would trigger a different process and probably litigation, which is where we're at. So my strategy, and it's not anything I'm afraid to disclose in a public meeting at this point, is that we need to, on the advice of counsel, we need to establish a baseline number. And as we depart the group and the run out of claims starts to materialize and they start to get rebates back or reimbursements back, those pluses and negatives need to be netted out against that baseline number. And then by November, we should have pretty much a final number of what they owe us. And at that point, hopefully, we'll have a court order that they need to deposit those funds in escrow and no longer commingle our funds with theirs for their own purposes. So the entire work is complicated by the fact that the MSHG has not done an audit of its own books. They've broken the law. They have not done an audit since '22. So here we are in '25.
So they've broken the law, huh?
Yeah, so that's 32B, it's right there in black and white. So that's one of the items of breach that gives us a legal argument to stand in front of the court and say they've breached the agreement and have failed to execute their responsibilities. But without an audit, how do we get at a good number? So we've talked to a financial analyst firm, Clifton, well, I always forget all the names, Clifton, Lawson, and Allen, CLA. And that's our consultant for our ARPA and some of our federal reporting. So we trust them, we know them, and yet we are not so close to them where we could say that they're in any way beholden to us. And we've suggested to the group that Douglas will pay for Clifton, for CLA to arrive at a number. And we should all pre-commit to accepting what number they come up to. CLA will not conduct an audit. Their view is that they are unable to attest to the accuracy of MSHG's records at the level of confidence that they would be required to do an audit. So they're just going to provide us with a number. At this point, the entire scope of work may cost an amount not to exceed $50,000, which is probably what the contract we're going to sign. We need 10 for the month of June, and then we'll fund the rest out of our budget.
And that's what this 10 is.
That's what this 10 is. I need to get them started right away because I need to get to court.
Does our own auditor have a role in any of this?
They absolutely should not touch this at all.
Okay.
They should be reviewing what happens here
Okay.
for processes and procedures. So, regretfully, this is where this is going with the group. We are the only, of the 5 members leaving the group, we're the only one that has a surplus. So we're in a unique circumstance.
What's the chances of getting paid, like, once we litigate?
In my view, they're excellent, like 100%. Because the joint purchase agreement is extremely clear in the process to be used to cash out a member with a surplus when they leave. So they've been trying to wiggle, they control the room politically. And of the 21 some odd groups in the room, only 5 have a surplus. The other 16 are in deficit. So they're not running to the front of the line to be the one who antes up the money they need to liquidate their deficit. But under a court order, it doesn't matter. What I'm looking for is the cash flow. So whatever comes in that first couple of weeks of that month, if that's enough to satisfy Douglas's claim, put it in escrow and done. But I don't think they can avoid their own. The way we structured the signing process and the approval process, every one of these towns, it wasn't just signed by the town manager, it was signed by their select board. They bound the town to a contract. I don't think you can escape that at all. So it'd make it really ridiculous where we might have to sue other towns directly, but I don't think so. I think MSHG is over the vehicle. For this limited purpose, the towns of Acushnet, Oxford, and Douglas have retained Scott Lang to be our attorney. He's the former mayor of New Bedford, if you recall those days. And he knows a lot about health insurance and is a capable attorney, so I think it's the right move.
So Matt, for our vast audience watching at home, the 10,000 to be transferred to selectmen expenses, to do what specifically
To
then?
get started on the financial analysis to determine what we are owed.
Okay, got it.
The work will continue into the next fiscal year. They
Okay.
will bill us monthly.
And then, so as of July 1, with our new budget, we still owe the 10 grand a month for 5 months, is that right? Or-
Will, an amount not to exceed 50,000.
Okay,
With hopefully the work done by September is really, I think, the bulk of the work will be.
so will we have other reserve fund transfers going forward to keep paying for this, you think?
I don't know exactly how we're gonna fund this if we, I don't know exactly how Gene's gonna wanna do this. I mean, we could get to special in the fall and liquidate
Okay.
it with free cash.
So this 10 is for which month then?
June.
Okay,
We need
And
the
July 1 is
money
our
to
new
be in
fiscal
place.
year.
Before I can sign a contract with them, I need to have the money in place to honor
Yeah.
our commitments we make.
Okay. Is everybody clear on the motion? So it would be to transfer $10,000 from reserve fund to the selectmen expenses for, what's a good phrase there, Matt? To fund litigation or,
No.
no,
No, fine.
Professional service fees.
professional service fees, you just leave it at that, okay. Somebody make that motion?
So moved.
Heather, thank you. Second
Second.
by Sandy. Discussion on the motion, anybody? Howard, welcome.
Thank you.
We're almost finished.
Okay.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 7-0.
I'm gonna let Gene handle this one, because I don't particularly support it, so.
All right, Gene, are you off to select board now, Matt?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wojcik.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you again.
So $2,000, Gene, huh?
That is, yes, the town clerk has informed me that she needs a little help getting through the end of the year. She had a printer that broke, and she replaced that, along with office supplies and election supplies, is what was put on her request. She is requesting $2,000
And that's for a new printer and other stuff?
and other stuff.
Okay.
Why is Matt not in support?
I can't
He's not
speak-
here.
I
right?
can't speak for Matt.
Backstory?
I cannot speak for Matt.
No, we're not asking
Is
you.
it an old printer, Gene? or-
I don't know I didn't know the status of the printer.
Okay.
I do know that I have $3,000 worth of bills that I cannot pay because there's only $2,150 in her account.
Right.
So I met with her today and asked the reasons why we have exceeded the budget as it stands. And I will tell you, there was 2 printers ordered and 1 printer and its toner was returned. I can tell you that, per request, so.
All right, any more questions or discussion on the request, anybody? So the motion would be to approve a transfer of $2,000 from the reserve fund to town clerk expenses.
Correct.
I move that motion.
Okay, Howard makes the motion, seconded by
I'll second it.
Carol. Any discussion?
Sandy looks like.
I'm not gonna approve it.
Because,
I don't think she's taking the right chain, it sounds like she's not following the process that she's supposed to follow, and, you know, it can't,
what is the process for replacing stuff?
It's not that the process wasn't followed.
Mhm.
Again, you have to stay within a budget
Mhm.
and make sure you have the funds available before you purchase an expense, you know, before you make any expenses. Like I said, there were 2 printers ordered, 1 was returned once we found out the situation, and the toner was returned. So this gets through the end of the year. You know, the printer was bought in January. You know, the elections happened after, so I don't know, you know, instead of waiting till the end of the year, but they could have needed the printer at that time. So I can't answer for her. But you are correct. The funds have to be in place before anything, and they have been put on hold. They cannot purchase anything else.
There was no, like, workaround for her? There was no other printer she could?
I can't answer for the town clerk. Again, the printer was purchased, there was one purchased in January, one purchased in April. The April one was returned,
Hmm.
and the toner associated with the April one was returned. This reserve fund would have been higher had that one stayed in the office.
Hmm.
Okay, anybody else? Questions or comments?
I know I just had a problem with my printer and I go crazy, but I can't do it though.
And toner's wicked expensive too.
Yeah.
So it,
Hundreds.
yeah, it could have been, this could have been, well, it probably was the reason why the budget went over,
Hmm.
but that occurred before the election, so,
I see, okay.
yeah.
But in the long run, it's a lot cheaper than those ink things
Yes.
that I use.
You know,
Mm.
had, in a perfect world, if I had known about this, this would have been on the special town meeting.
Or wait till July 1 with the new,
Right.
or maybe,
Right.
yeah.
You can't really wait.
Right.
So we have, the motion's been made and seconded. Anybody else? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
One abstention.
I'm
Howard, did you
abstaining.
vote or not?
Aye.
Okay,
I'm abstaining.
so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, 2 abstentions, okay. So 5 yes, 2 abstentions. I think everybody signed everything except I need to sign one more of these, is that right? Okay.
What kind of printer did they get? Here is it laser? If it takes toner, must be a laser printer.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. We do require that all
Why don't you send this around,
purchases that
Lynn?
affect the system have to be approved by the IT.
And was that done?
I'm sorry?
Did IT approve that?
I believe they approved the type of printer that was purchased, because that is a requirement of the town, because you're networking, right?
Exactly.
They may have to have their own, and I won't, because of the election information, so they do have one in their office. For the larger print jobs, we do use the 2 that we have, but like we have 2 in our office that we use for checks that aren't shared with other departments, because we're running a check run, we can't share that.
Right.
Okay, so if you look at our agenda, everybody, we are going to meet on June 24, correct, Gene? You need us to,
I do. You'll notice the portable generator outside.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, they found an issue with the generator here. If Adam was here, he would speak to it. He's not. So we have a cost of renting that. I didn't want to put
Oh,
something.
really?
Yeah, yeah, it's a wiring issue, and we need to have that because of the police station 24/7.
Yeah.
So the issue was found on Saturday night. They brought in the generator. There
Do you want to
is
sign it?
a cost to just having that set up, and then there'll be a rental. So there will be an expense associated with that. I didn't want to rush that through and then have to come back twice. I'm hoping this handles the majority of the larger transfers, and that would be the only one left on the 24th.
and then we're also going to go over the minutes of May 5 on June 24, and these minutes if Stephanie gets them, so. Most of you going to be around on June 24, you think?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll plan on meeting then. Anybody have anything else? So just a reminder then to Sandy, Ryan, and Carol, I'll get you Lisa's email, and then she can forward it to our town moderator. Nobody else has anything? Motion to adjourn, anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Sandy makes it. Seconded by Lynn. Thank you, Lynn.
Right, nice work, Lynn.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. We adjourn at 7:30. Look at that.
Thank you
Ooh,
very
yeah.
much.